when people hear oil crisis, they think about gas prices. And quite honestly, that in and of itself can be enough to push inflation into people's faces. They see the price of gas when they go to put it in their car going up. So, and remember, it's that little confidence piece, that little one that will absolutely destroy everything. So, I don't know, is this the final hurrah? We're going to find out. But I do want you to know that oil is not just about fuel. It's the bloodstream of the global economy. So frankly, when oil breaks like it has been, everything breaks. I was there back in October, or not back in October, back in 1971, 1973. How many that were living during that period of time can talk about that? Because I remember the lines, and I remember having to go every other day. If your car ended in this, it was odd or even. But in October 1973, Nixon faced an affordability crisis. So what I'm trying to show you here is these parallels and these similarities. And that is a worsening economy and mounting legal problems. I don't know, kind of sound a little bit like today. In the run-up to the election, he had challenged the Federal Reserve's, Burns, that was the Fed chair then, independence, and pressured its chair to cut interest rates. The same. Now the bill is coming due in the form of fast rising inflation. Is that also what we're going to be seeing? Because quite frankly, that's the little teeny piece that could make everything implode. So here we've got a war shock. I mean, basically the Strait of Hormuz is absolutely closed. And the only ships that are even marginally getting by are Iranian ships. So this is going to have a global impact on what we're seeing. Sustained high price of oil would boost inflation and slow growth, putting central banks in a tough spot. Now, this statement alone is almost laughable because high prices would boost inflation and slow growth. Well, they use inflation as part of the growth numbers. But yes, what it does is it puts those price rises right in front of everybody's faces. It makes it obvious, and that tests the level of confidence. China tells top refiners to halt diesel and gasoline exports. Of course, because this is spreading all around the world. And history, frankly, it's already showed us how this plays out. But where you have constraint in oil, you now have a big problem in oil spikes. And in fact, some of you may or may not have seen this. We saw oil spike to $120 a barrel. That's probably about as extreme as after 2020 when it was minus $36 a barrel. These are extreme moves that show you who's really controlling the pricing mechanism. And who is that? It's the traders. So you've got to pay attention because traders are really the ones that dictate everything. U.S. to Asia, oil shipment costs hit a record. So quite honestly, the costs all around oil are also going up. That pushes prices up for everything that much more. And this will bring down the economies of the world. This is the anticipation. We'll see how long all of this lasts. But quite frankly, even if they were to turn it around today, we still have lingering issues that are not through the system yet. GDP growth around the world will be impacted. Everybody's energy price is going to go higher, and there will be shortages of some products, and there will be a chain reaction of factories that cannot supply. So is the supply chain issues and what they were attempting to control and get a handle on back in 2020, I mean, have those been resolved? Some of them have been, but you can't just flick a switch on globalized systems and then non-global systems back and forth that quickly. So everything that they've done at this point is now in a test. And this could very well be our last hurrah, because Asia's deepening oil crunch triggers fuel hoarding. So we've seen this before. We saw this back in 2020 when a lot of countries simply stopped shipping out rice or whatever was important, whatever they exported. At the same time that you have the drivers of oil prices going up and the constraints and the breakdown in the supply chains. Wherever we are right now, we're at a beginning. We are not even marginally close to anything, because once geopolitics collide with energy, I gotta tell you, these shock waves move really, really quickly. And we've got a whole bunch of different drivers of oil prices, but we also know that oil goes into manufacturing. It goes into everything. So it isn't just at the gas pump where we're going to have to be paying attention. It's every place. So I wanted to show you this chart on WTI. So this is crude, this is refined oil. And it did get up to $120 a barrel, and you have Brent and WTI kind of at the same level, which is unusual. But I wanted to point out a couple of key things. Number one is that gap, because at some point, all gaps get filled. And the hope of a short war, or is this decline that we're seeing today in the oil prices down about 10, 11% or something like that, is this going in to fill that gap and then it's going to ratchet higher? I don't know the answer to that. But what I'm pointing out is at some point we will see that gap filled. I just don't exactly know when. The other thing that I particularly wanted to point out is where the 50-day moving average, so that blue line, the 50-day moving average, was below the 200-day moving average, but it just crossed. So that would be considered a bullish cross, and anticipating that the prices would continue to go up. Again, we are under extreme circumstances right now with the war. So we'll see exactly how everything is impacted. But what we certainly do know is that the price of oil, even with today's pullback, is substantially higher than it was. And that will lead through, if not immediately, that will lead through to higher prices and more inflation all across the board. And keeping in mind that war is one of those things that happen 100% of the time during transitions from one monetary system into the others, just like it was in the 70s. We need to take into consideration that that's really what's happening here, that we are frankly at the very end of this currency's, this big experiment that has been going on really since the 70s. We're at the end of it. And it typically doesn't end well for most people, but not for everybody, right? That is the point of sound money, because all of this, and you're looking at this chart and all of this up and down, that's traders, that's humans, okay? This is also humans' money. This is contract, this is debt. This is not real money. This is right in the area where governments and corporations can inflate the value away. That's simply not true with physical gold and physical silver. They can do it just with the COMEX contracts because they can create as much gold and silver as they want to. There are no limitations on that. But when you get to the physical world, there are limitations. So I took a look also at the gold to oil ratio, and that's how many ounces of gold to buy a barrel of oil. And you can see from this graph that we are at really extreme levels, close to the highest levels ever that happened during COVID, during 2020. And remember, all of that volatility, these are contracts. Even the oil doesn't move that fast. So don't be blinded by the numbers. And I guess that's really my point. I mean, you know, my $10 trillion note that I have that I can't buy anything with. This is a construct to distract you from what is really, really happening. Don't let it work. Make sure if you don't have, right, you need surety in food, water, energy, security, barterability, wealth preservation, community, and shelter. You've got to create surety in all of that. And how do you do that? Community. Just what we're doing here today is part of building the community. But you also have to get really local because you've got to make sure that you can feed your family. So if you can't grow food yourself, then who do you know that knows how to do this and is actually doing it? And if your answer is no one, then I'm telling you, go to a farmer's market and see who actually grows your food. Give them a day or so of your labor. You will learn a new skill, you will create a relationship, and you just might save your life because you will have food to eat. So you've got to come together locally and create that community. And on a global basis, why is any of this okay with you? Let's get sound money back in the system again, but we've got to have the public holding the power. That's it. And until next we meet, please be safe out there. Bye-bye.